Now that we're getting ready for Guild of Ravnica to come out in a little bit less than a month, I think end of September is when the pre-release happens, and then the set releases, I think, in the first week of October. So I've been looking through my Return to Ravnica block cards. I think I showed you guys my Ravnica 1, my Ravnica City of Guilds cards. Not a gigantic selection, but I definitely have what I think is a gigantic selection. I think about 4,500 cards altogether from the 3 sets of Return to Ravnica. So the big thing that I want to be thinking about is going through each guild and then trying to forecast or at least see what I would like to see out of Guild of Ravnica for that guild. So today I'm going to talk about Selesnya. I've picked out a reasonable selection of cards from my Selesnya box. I've got a fat pack with a bunch of green and white and then Selesnya specific cards that I plan to eventually mate with. However, this guild is treated in what I call Ravnica 3. All those 3 sets, the Guild of Ravnica block. I'm not sure I'll be doing that with the Ravnica 1 cards, just because I don't have the money or the time to hunt down all those cards. I think that's just a bridge too far for me right now. Maybe I'll change my mind. But as of now, what I'll be working on is everything having to do with Ravnica 2 and Ravnica 3. I have 4,500 or so cards from the Return to Ravnica block, what I call Ravnica 2. And right now I have 0 cards of Ravnica 3, what will be called the Guild of Ravnica block. So right here, I'm going to set up what I think I'll be doing with each guild before the set releases. I'm not sure I'm going to get through all the guilds. I'm not sure if I'll even get through the 5 guilds that are in Guilds of Ravnica, which are Boros, Selesnya, Dimir, Izzet, and Golgari. By now I can name them because I've been looking through them. So I do have all 10 guild commanders for the Return to Ravnica block. The mythic rares from Return to Ravnica Guild Crash. There are also 10 that are rare that are in Dragon's Maze, but they're considerably, I think, a lot less powerful than these. So I'm going to be building commander decks to these. I'll build some that are only with before Guild of Ravnica releases. I'm not sure if I'm going to get to all 10 builds. And then I'll eventually, that'll probably be like a year from now. I'm looking forward to it. I hope I get there to build with, I'm imagining we're going to get 10 new commanders. So these commanders will be redone in Guilds of Ravnica. So those are the guild commanders. I've got them in a little thingy. And today, of course, we're gonna look at what a deck would look like with Trostani. Okay, so I guess I should set it outside because Trostani is going to be in the build that I talk about today. And then, of course, I'm also going to be building with the 10 guild, they really are guild cards out of M19. I'm a huge fan of the Selesnya one. I think it's a really great casual card, and some of the other ones are pretty good too, and I got these out of the toolkit. I've cracked almost no M19, if you can believe it, because that's usually what happens to me with core sets. I open a lot of a core set over a long period of time, but I don't go crazy when it comes out. So I'll probably crack the M19 Fat Pack as Guild of Ravnica releases, just so I can have some more cards. And then I'll probably be cracking some M19 for years to come. I still crack M12 and M13 every now and then when I get the edge, and some of the other core sets. So in this case, the card that I'll be talking about today in this video will be this one. So I'll set that one aside as well. Then I have a selection from Return to Ravnica block. And this selection, one of the things that I think is going to happen naturally, because it happened already in Return to Ravnica, I think it's also going to happen in Guild of Ravnica, that if you're going to build a Selesnya deck, you're going to want to build with whatever you've got in Standard. And this is going to go for builds in Standard and also for builds in Brawl, which was dead on arrival, but I'm a huge fan of the format, so it's kind of sad. But today I think what I'm going to do is kind of mimic what a Brawl build would look like if these were Guild of Ravnica cards, which of course we have none, and only a few have been previewed. So I'm just going through the exercise. And so Boros is in Guild of Ravnica, and this is a Boros card. That's the Boros symbol. So I'm sure when we get Guild of Ravnica, I hope to have a selection very similar to this one, but of cards from Guild of Ravnica. And then I'm going to have a selection, and these are what will be in Standard in the fall. So these are all M19, Dominaria, Ixalan block cards only. Of course, I have a Reclamation Station here, I think from M15 or whenever it was that it last came out, but it is legal in Standard because it is an M19. This just happens to not be an M19 copy. So there you have it. I'm going to go through the Selesnya cards from Return to Ravnica that I think are good. Some are good, some are not that great, and cards from other guilds that are in color that I'll be using for this build. I'm not sure I'm going to make it through this video. I may have a second video after I hit my 15 minutes in which I'll actually do the build. I didn't play this card that much. It's a pretty good graveyard hoster for instants and sorceries. This was just a limited card, but it's got a token. So the strategy in Selesnya for Return to Ravnica was about tokens. Selesnya and Ravnica 1 had, what was it? The ability, I'm having a blank of what the ability is, but it's all about creatures. It's kind of like Improvise was for artifacts, but it's for creatures. Something. Anyways. I wish I had a couple of cards with it here. Not Converge. I keep thinking of Converge. Anyways, I'll probably put it in the description of the video because I'll remember it 3 seconds after this video is done. So again, borrowing cards that are really from white weenies because you want to have a lot of creatures. Borrowing cards from Boros because Boros also attacks with a lot of creatures. This card was great. I hope we get a substitute for it. Drops a token. So you want token droppers. You want to borrow from Boros for your white. You're going to borrow something from Simic for green. And from Golgari. But specifically in Guilds of Ravnica, the first set, you're going to be borrowing your white from Boros and your green from Golgari. This card cannot be countered. Hopefully we get at least one of those in green. Vigilance Dude. Borrow some control cards from Azorius. Although Azorius is not in Guilds of Ravnica. It's in the second set that'll come out in February, March, something like that. Be nice to get something like this where you can take out an enchantment. So it's got kind of like a enchantment destruction staple on the card. We'll see what kind of guild mages we get. I found the guild mages for Ravnica 2 to be a little lackluster. That's just me. You can disagree. But I really did not play any of them. I mean, I would put them in decks, see how they worked. I'd be like, oh, you're the guild mage. Okay, you're out. Because I'd find something in that casting cost, especially because as much as I love Ravnica, one thing that new players will learn who were not around when Ravnica, Return to Ravnica came out, or the previous Ravnica, Ravnica 1, City of Guilds, is I would rather have a 1 white or a 1 green than a green white. It just works out that way. So these costs are pretty high. I mean, you're dropping tokens and paying a lot for them. I don't know. Maybe I can do better this time with the guild mages if they're similar to these. It'll be very interesting to see what the template is for the guild mages. All the Return to Ravnica guild mages are like this. They have 2 abilities. They're almost all, I think all of them are really heavy. They're not like the Mere Guild Mage from Ravnica City of Guilds, which is an incredible card. This card's gotten reprinted a bunch of times. It's good, gains you a little life. Again, more borrowing, which I'm pretty sure I will do when Guild of Ravnica comes out. This was, I think, almost like a Simic card, but it is from Return to Ravnica. This card was not good. I think anything but Voice of Resurgence for, hey, it does something, but it's got to have, it's tied to your number of creatures. If you only have 1 on the board, you have 0. This thing is, not that great, and you're paying 3 mana for it. And this one's from Gruul. I think this is the Gruul. Blood Rush was Gruul, so you're going to want a little aggro, but Gruul is not in the first set. It's in the second set. Your Selesnya build is going to need flyers because all your green-white dudes are not going to fly. So you're going to have to borrow from the general pool. There's a general pool of cards. Matter of fact, when you go through all these cards in Return to Ravnica block, you will find that very few cards in the set have a guild-specific stamp. Most of the cards are sort of like, well, they just happen to be a white card. Like this guy, which sucked, I think, when it was in Standard. We'll see if we get things that help tokens. In Selesnya, Return to Ravnica, you're really going for tokens. You're going for Populate, which was the ability. This card was not that great. It's from Dragon's Maze. And this card was not that great either. I mean, it's a 7-drop, Vigilance 7/8. This guy was good. This is kind of like the Green Titan from M12 remade for a slower meta, I would say. It's still a pretty good critter, 7. Primeval Titan, that's what it is. So this card is good. You want to have a big token on the board. You want to have something like a 3/3 or greater. You pop this, you get another one. That's nice. Pretty big boost from Dragon's Maze. Of course, this card is more for the artwork than anything else. But yeah, if you want to be able to drop a 3/3, and then you drop a 3/3 token, and then you double it up with this, that's pretty good. Because you only really paid 1 mana for this guy or girl. These cards just never panned out. I love the design. They're beautiful. Looks like we're getting them again in Ravnica 3. I wouldn't be surprised if Wizards is able to yet again make a cycle of 10 of these or 15 of these that are not playable. They always were a little too expensive. I don't know. That's how it played out. Let's see how it plays out in Guild of Ravnica. This is a Simic card, I think. More like a Simic card, but it drops a token, so that's good. That's pretty good. The Oozes, I think, ended up being put mostly in Simic. Old Friend, Giant Growth. Another Old Friend, Naturalize. I'm really looking forward to see what kind of a charm cycle they have put in the Ravnica 3. Very interesting if they even have them. Are they going to have something else? I don't know. We'll find out. But these were very good. Almost all of them were very useful. This card was good with combos for giving life. Again, another Naturalize stapled. I'm running a little bit out of time. I'll just continue with these in the next video. I'm going to stop right here. I don't want to hurry. I'm not in a hurry to talk about my favorite bunch of sets that will be for Ravnica once all of Ravnica 3 comes out. I'll stop here and start another video.